Hello, and welcome back to Cranky Commentaries.
Back.
I mean, I assume you were listening to us last week, but maybe you weren't.
I know you just throw me off because you always say welcome back in part 2 of the episode.
Oh, do it? Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Do you want to do that again?
No, I've already thrown off the...
All right. Well, welcome to Cranky Commentaries anyway. My name is Jake Delmastro, and as always, I'm joined by my very good friend and co-host, Keaton Byer.
Hello.
Hello, Keaton.
How's it going?
Not too bad. I just feel like really thrown off because, you know, this whole intro didn't go properly.
Yeah, the whole equilibrium has been, I know, right? It totally messed with the rest of the episode.
All right, so what film are we doing, Keaton?
It's called Living in Oblivion. And it's pretty real, man.
Yeah, I can see that. So, this is sort of like, it's a movie about, like, making movies, I would say. I think this movie kind of, like, flies under the radar. Like, I hadn't heard about it until recently.
I hadn't heard about it until you told me about it.
Yeah. But it's definitely worth watching.
It's directed by a director I've never heard of until this movie.
Yeah. And, I mean, if you hear him talk about the movie, like, you know, you can kind of understand why you've never heard of him.
Yeah, and in looking it up, I didn't actually really look into any of his movies after this, just the one before it, really. So I don't actually know if he did anything afterwards.
There's a few, but it's not too many. I mean, we should probably just get right into, like, sort of, you know, summarizing the movie, since, you know, I think most of our listeners probably aren't familiar with it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true. Why don't you start us off, and I'll interject when I've got something to say.
Okay, so this is kind of like it's a comedy in 3 acts. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
I think a comedy is limiting its scope to call it a comedy.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's definitely there for a laugh, though. You know what I mean?
I mean, comedy's forefront.
Yeah, it's definitely. I would say, like, genre-wise, it's comedy. Like. But
what I think they call it, like, a dark or a black comedy.
Yeah, black comedy.
Right.
But yeah, so basically, it's a movie about making it's an independent movie about making an independent movie, and it's sort of, we start off with the director of the film, who's played by Steve Buscemi.
The incredible Steve Buscemi.
The incredible Steve Buscemi. Who's sort of, you know...
Actually, a really good cast in this film.
Yeah, excellent cast, actually. We don't start off with Steve Buscemi. We start off with the catering crew.
With who? What?
The catering crew.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, that's such a good opening.
Yeah. So, yeah, we start off with this catering crew who's just setting up the catering, the craft services table for a film shoot. And, this guy is smelling the milk that he's about to put out, and, you know, he thinks it's bad, but, you know, I guess he doesn't really care enough to, like, you know, get fresh milk, so he just puts it out.
Yeah, I mean, why would he care enough?
And, you know, that might come up later. But anyway, so then
it all ties together.
The actors and the crew arrives, and Steve Buscemi, who is the director of this shoot, it gets to start, and they're shooting a scene where basically the lead actress is having a very tense conversation with her mother in the scene that they're about to shoot, not in the actual movie. It's gonna be confusing because there's like a movie in a movie.
Like, what he's shooting is kind of irrelevant in this scene, you know? It's just like in the summary.
But basically, anyway, so they're having this first shoot, and then everything is just like literally everything's going wrong.
It's like it just everything that can go wrong does go wrong.
It's Murphy's Law. Like, a
all
light
over
explodes. Like
they forget their lines. The boom gets in the shot.
Yeah.
There's a street noise. Like literally everything that can go wrong. And the thing is that the way it's done is good because it doesn't seem like over like when you list it sounds
no, they
over
all
the
seem
top
like
as hell.
things that can happen, and like if you've ever done anything like this, like anything creative, not just doing a movie or anything, but like these all seem like
we'll get into it.
Things that like these are all things that can happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
but it's just
on.
Like one after another, these things go wrong, eventually culminating in well, that doesn't culminate in this actually, but the director of photography is missing while like puking his guts out while the lead actress is giving her best performance, and they don't get any of it on film. And so there's all sorts of shit go wrong. Then we start hearing a beeping noise, and the director freaks out because they can't deal with the beep, and everything that was just weighing on him all just explodes, and he throws like a crazy
he freaks
the fuck out. Then we end up we realize that this entire segment has been a dream, or rather a nightmare.
Yeah, that's the more accurate term for it.
In the head of the director.
This whole movie is so stressful, but that first sequence where things start and keep going wrong, because
for me it's the second sequence that really I think is the worst. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Well, you're about to get into it, but I feel like the first sequence is just like, it's like, I guess you're probably right now that I think about it, but the first sequence is like, as soon as you realize this is what's gonna happen, and it just keeps
and it's just like you just want them to get the scene. You just want them to get a good
stressful.
take. But it's very stressful. But in the second sequence, the lead actress wakes up. She's just had a one night stand with one of the main actors, and they basically decide, they're not going to tell the crew about anything, right?
And there's a significant dynamic difference between them in the sense that the dude is like some big Hollywood actor. It seems.
He's supposedly some big deal in Hollywood. He's
because it's an independent film, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They've hooked this big fish from Hollywood.
Exactly. But he's not a hostess Twinkie type,
No,
he's not. He's not a Hollywood kind of guy. This is his
all puff.
This is what he wants. He wants to be in these kind of movies, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, they get to the set after this, and they start shooting the scene, which just so happens to be starring those two same actors.
Yeah, you're right. This one's the most stressful.
Exactly. So it's the scene in which they're supposed to be declaring their love for each other in the movie.
Yeah, which is a bit hard to do. Yeah.
But we learn a lot about the character of Chaz Palomino, who is
the section's all the dude. Yeah,
he's the dude
who's the big
fish, right?
It's all about him.
This is all about him. So basically, like, he proceeds to just be like, the worst person ever.
Like the textbook airhead. Overacting.
And he keeps like suggesting like changes to like the blocking, and like, oh, just put that light over there, and it's like he's like trying to tell everybody else how to do their job.
Exactly. He's like, well, what if you hear me out? What if you did this?
Yeah.
And then, like, he keeps trying to put on an eye patch.
Yeah, the eye patch, which belongs to the director of photography, Wolf. Because he had his girlfriend accidentally squirted perfume in his eye previously, which is why he's wearing an eye patch.
there's a lot of little details that tie together. I think that's what makes this movie like so good. You know,
Yeah.
it's more than just like a
Yeah, and all the characters
a parody.
are great. Like, I mean, Wolf, for example.
Yeah, Wolf is amazing.
Yeah.
Great character.
But like, they're shooting the scene, and it just keeps changing, and Wolf is getting, annoyed by the actor specifically, because he keeps changing like where he's standing and everything, and like then he asks him to put up another light or something.
Well, yeah, they're like, can we like if we shoot from the other angle, we have to change the lighting.
Yeah.
So they have to like take a break for like them to change the lighting because of this actor's stupid request.
Yeah. But yeah, he's just absolutely the worst.
And I think Nick, who's the director, Steve Buscemi, I think the implication is he's compelled to go along with it because he needs this dude in his movie.
Yeah, because
like,
for name value, so he can sell
exactly,
the movie.
Yeah. He knows that all his ideas are shit and he doesn't like them,
but he does them anyway or he tries them anyway because he wants to keep him happy.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's so painful.
Yeah, it's very painful. And then eventually, during one take of the scene, what's Catherine Keener's name like in the film?
The character's name?
The actress not like in the
Nicole.
Yeah. So anyway, Chad is he's so annoying in one scene that Nicole freaks out at him. Then he gets mad, and then he goes and talks to the director.
Yeah, because she like snaps at him, and he's like, he like fucking snaps at Nick, and he's like, we need to have a conversation.
We need to talk now, yeah. And then he's like, I cannot work with this woman. And then like Nick is like, yeah, okay, I know, yeah, whatever. She's terrible. You're great, whatever.
Exactly. He just says what he wants to hear.
He
he
tells him exactly what he wants to hear.
Being a total Hollywood pushover type.
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, Nicole is listening back to the audio of the take, but also happens to hear the microphone that is pointed at them. So she overhears everything they're saying. And then so they go back and they shoot the next take, and then Nicole takes it upon herself to just unload on Chad.
Well, she's
while
like,
the
can we
camera's
improvise
rolling.
this scene?
Yeah,
she's like, can we do some improvising?
Yeah, exactly. And then she just reveals that they had previously slept together, and that he's just a jerk.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously she is pissed off at him and Steve Buscemi, and yeah.
Oh, yeah, first Steve Buscemi fights him. Chad.
Oh well, yeah.
Everybody Chad ends up being like, fuck this, after she unloads on him, and then and then they're like, well, fuck you, we don't want you anyway, we only hired you because of your name. And then he's like, I only did this movie because I thought you were tight with Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, and Steve Buscemi, he's like, you twinkie motherfucker.
Yeah, you hostess twinkie
motherfucker. And then the actor punches him in the stomach.
Yeah.
And then they proceed to fight.
Everybody ends up coming together and kicking the shit out of Chad Palomino and then throwing him.
Yeah. But I love the detail of Dermot Mulroney's character Wolf when he runs. He's like, "Hey, well, I gotta protect my girlfriend." So he runs over and just immediately gets knocked out.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, and then so they throw him in a car that is headed back to his hotel. Not before the gaffer puts a script in his pocket because he wants him to be in his movie, which he is, right?
Yeah. Oh god, there's just so many little tendrils in this movie of just perfect.
Yeah, and then after this we hear a beeping again, and we realize that this is all Nicole's dream.
Exactly. So we got a double dream situation.
Sorry, nightmare.
Yeah, double nightmare. Which is something I'm not normally. You really have to work hard to get me in the camp of
doing everything as a dream,
and it was a dream. Yeah,
but I
really
mean,
have to
the
work
whole
hard.
point is it's so nightmarish that it's I don't care that whether or not it's real within the context of the movie because it doesn't really affect anything.
Yeah, exactly, it doesn't.
Because I mean,
kind of real in the movie.
Kind of about this movie is the cohesive story of this movie doesn't really matter. It's just
Well,
a
that's
sort
the
of a
thing, and
series of like thematic vignettes, right?
exactly. And once we move on from the summary, we'll talk about that idea a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, and then we end up in the third part now, which is that they're shooting an important sequence in the film, the dream sequence.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the dream sequence is always an important part, right?
Yeah, it's a super important part in the film.
And they're preparing for this scene. It's really strange. There's supposed to be a lot of smoke, because smoke machines are always great. There's supposed to be a dwarf who is played by Peter Dinklage. Obviously.
Yeah, I believe that's one of his first roles.
It is, I think. And Nicole's wearing a wedding dress for
it's like the most cliche, like, quote unquote,
like
dream
I'd love to
imagine.
see the movie that they're making in this movie.
Oh yeah, I was
because it just
say,
seems like it's so bad. Like it's so anyway, they're shooting this scene, and once again everything starts going wrong, as always.
Shocker.
So this time, like, everything seems to kind of be going okay, except for the dwarf is being a bit uncooperative.
The dwarf is being uncooperative. What is his name? Tito?
Tito, not Toto.
Not Toto, and yeah, Nicole keeps calling him Toto.
Yeah. Also, they're having some trouble with the smoke machine.
Well, first there's too little smoke, and then there's too much smoke.
Yeah, and then the smoke machine ends up blowing up, essentially.
And then it explodes.
Just like the light in the previous section.
Oh yeah, and the shot where I don't know what her title is, but the woman who like shouts the commands, what is her title?
Oh, she's the AD.
The AD. She's the scene where she's like, we're doing the scene with the dream sequence with no smoke. That's it. Again, no smoke in the dream sequence.
I know.
And the look on Steve Buscemi's face.
It's just like, oh my god, I wanted to smoke so bad.
It's just like, it's
heartbreaking.
So
I feel for him in this
stressful.
movie, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that.
Anyway, eventually, Tito gets very angry and leaves.
Well, because for the reason that he leaves is important. He points out how stupid the dwarf in the dream sequence.
Yeah, because have you ever had a dream with a dwarf in it? I've never even had a dream with a dwarf in it.
And then he storms off, and I love that Nick's like, he's got a point.
Yeah. But also his mother showed up. I can't remember in what order these things happen.
Well, it's all because again, it's all just a
clusterfuck. It's like every.
Yeah, it's a circus of errors or whatever.
His mother, who appears to be a bit senile, I think.
Yeah, has some dementia symptoms.
Yeah, has showed up on set, and
God, that's weird. Like that. That's where the movie, again, that's where it really kind of takes kind of a hard turn, is bits like that, The bit where his mother, like, they're all thinking about what they're going to be doing, and his mother, like, imagines herself, like, walking through a wall, because she said she just walked, vaporized through the wall or something.
Yeah.
And they, like, show her doing that, and then there's, like, the other thing where, with, like, Nicole's character.
Oh, how she's she thinks she's gonna be just a waitress or a cook or whatever after this.
Well, there's that bit, and the with her mother.
Oh yeah, with her mother.
Like, there's more layers to this movie.
You're saying because it's like pretty dark at some points.
It's more than dark. There's like further implications beyond. It's not just dark for the sake of being dark, if you know what I mean.
Right.
There's more to it than just, oh, that was kind of dark and funny.
Right.
It was Anyway, go on. We're trying to break through the summary here because it's all clusterfuck, but we're basically there. That's
everything goes wrong, and then eventually the dwarf leaves, and he Steve Buscemi's like, I'm done. We're not finishing this. We're done for the day.
Yeah,
we might be done with this movie.
Yeah.
He's just
I quit.
defeated. And anyway, so then Wolf orders the film crew to start packing up the camera, but his mother sees this and decides to play the role of the dwarf herself.
Indeed, she steps in.
She steps in. It makes sense that she's in the dream sequence. I don't know, but they shoot the scene with her doing the.
Well, she's in the dream sequence, and she plays not his mother in the first dream sequence.
Yeah.
And then he's like some old lady. I don't know who it was.
Yeah, but I'm saying anyway, they end up shooting the sequence with his mother.
Indeed.
And then they're happy with it, even though it has no smoke and no dwarf. And they decide that they're done with that scene, that they have it. And right when they're about to wrap,
they're all cheering.
Audio guy. I don't know what his title is, but they call him Speedo because he says speed. The audio guy says, "Wait, I need 30 seconds of room tone. Y'all need to be silent for 30 seconds."
Oh, as soon as he said that, me and I'm sure everybody who's ever watched this movie ever was like, "Oh God,
yeah,
no.
What can go wrong now?"
It's like, what are they gonna pull on us?
Yeah, so they all just sort of stand there looking tense while 30 seconds ticks by, and they start dreaming of, you know, what their future will hold, I guess.
Yeah, what they're gonna do after this movie.
And eventually the clock ticks down, and they've got it. They've got their 30 seconds of room tone, and they have to now move on to the next scene, and that's it. And as far as we know, that last segment is not a dream sequence.
As far as we know, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the summary. To summarize the summary, it's basically like 3 acts, and the first 2 are dream sequences.
Yeah, and the last one is, for all as we presume, is real.
Yeah, so there's 2 nightmare sequences leading into a third sequence, which is basically equally as nightmarish.
Where they are filming a dream.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've inverted it so that instead of, you know, them dreaming about making a movie, they're making a movie where they're dreaming.
There's a lot to unpack with this movie, so
yeah, it's confusing.
There really is a lot in this movie. Should we get to some initial thoughts before we start talking about?
Yeah, let's do that.
How they made it and all the other shenanigans.
Yeah, definitely.
Details and everything. Yeah, well, I've said it a couple times, but this is probably one of the most stressful films I've ever watched.
Yeah, I know. It's just it's so brutal at some points. It's just like it's hard to watch. Just everything's
it is
going
hard
wrong,
to watch,
you know?
And that's kind of what I was gonna ask this earlier, but like so when I described this movie to Margot, when I was like, okay, so this movie's it's an independent film about a guy making an independent film, and then everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong.
Yeah.
And her response was, "Why would anyone want to watch that?"
Well, I have an answer to that.
What's your answer?
Because it's cathartic.
Yeah. I feel like it's the kind of thing that might just be compelling to people who either A, make movies,
yeah,
or B, think a lot about the making of movies or know a lot about the making of movies.
Yeah, kind of.
Like, if I can see, if you're not all that into film.
Yeah, no, like, which is, you know, we'll talk about this when they talk about, like, the production of the movie, but, like, yeah, like, I think this movie is, like, somewhat self-indulgent.
That's what I was gonna ask you. You know, I was gonna ask you, what do you think this movie's self-indulgent?
Yes, but, that's totally fine.
Yes, but yeah, it wouldn't be improved if it wasn't.
This needs to be what it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's self-indulgent, but also it's like it doesn't sound like they wasted a lot of people's money making it.
No, exactly, and it's we'll get into the budgeting.
Yeah,
a little later on, but
yeah. What about the characters? Like I don't know. I really liked Wolf. I thought he was just a great character.
He's probably like Buscemi's obviously like a
Well, he's
tour de
obviously
force.
he's
But
great in this movie, but like, because I mean the thing is like I think in the movie like Steve Buscemi is like we are all Steve Buscemi, you know what I mean? Like anybody
yeah,
who has
exactly.
ever like had a creative endeavor is Steve Buscemi.
And yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing. It doesn't
Doesn't
just
necessarily
strictly
have to be movies, but like
anyone who's like creatively managed something.
yeah, creatively or even not like necessarily creatively, like
Yeah, anyone who's managed something,
anybody who's
basically.
ever been in charge of anything.
Exactly. Exactly. They can relate to Steve Buscemi in this
Exactly.
movie.
Like,
Which again is like, why would you want to watch that? Is a valid question. Why would you want to watch someone in charge of something struggle at every possible?
in every
I guess
possible
you're
way, because I don't know, because
It's
it's just like
cathartic, yeah.
to so that like because if you felt that pain, it's like to
Yeah,
see somebody else feel
yeah.
the pain is like
It's true. It's true.
it's,
But again, I guess there are some like, I guess I don't know. Like I don't know that much about like making movies. I don't want to like oversell.
yeah, no, I don't want to oversell what any of our experience making movies is, because like God
Yeah.
knows we haven't like done anything like
Exactly,
impressive
which
at
is
all.
why I snuck in the spend a lot time thinking about
Yeah,
making
exactly.
movies. 'Cause
But
as
like
you know,
I'd like to think I know enough about the process that I can understand like what's going on, but also like my identification with the character doesn't necessarily come from my time making movies, if that's
you're right.
clear.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. Like the reference points. Like I was gonna say like my like the way I relate to Steve Buscemi's character is mostly through like music.
Yeah,
like
no,
getting a
I
band together.
yeah, I've been in that room with you.
that is where I really relate to him. But like
Yeah, no, definitely.
we've
Like,
obviously the time we spent talking about film and researching it kind of gives you like there's it's so accurately referenced. You know what I mean? Like
oh
there's
yeah,
so many like
no, it's good. And it's funny seeing like because these are all like. It's funny seeing the actors play the roles of the people making the movie. I just think it's funny.
yeah, and this all came from the fact that we were talking about like this all branched off the fact that Dermot Mulroney is so good as the as Wolf,
Yeah.
which is true. I totally buy him as that character. Like I don't know, like the artsy, kind of overly artsy.
No,
but
we've
still,
all
like,
met a
kinda,
wolf,
like,
you know what I mean?
I know.
It's
exactly.
the thing, it's like all these characters, like you've all met that person, you know what I mean? They're all archetypes, right?
Which brings me to my next point.
I also love the part where he calls it like he's like, you pretentious beret wearing motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Pretentious beret wearing motherfucker. But yeah, it brings me to my next point.
Yeah.
Is that Nick reminds me so much of you.
Really? I
Yeah.
don't think I'm that high strung.
No, not high strung necessarily. I think part of it is the fact that he vaguely looks like you, just in like the fact that he has the like long hair and
Right.
the beard, and he's wearing the leather jacket. I think, and he's talking about directing and film stuff, and he's just I don't know. And just the like that one time we were trying to again a music thing.
Yeah,
We were
yeah. Was
trying
it
to,
when we were recording that thing with Lucky?
Exactly. Yeah. Lucky in the Babies.
Obviously, I remember that.
Yeah, and you literally, you were like kneeling over your tape recorder.
Yeah,
and
what
you
is
literally
that
said the
buzz?
words. What is that buzz? And you said, "I've been defeated. I've been defeated."
Yeah, but no. Then we pulled it together.
We got
it
it
done.
done. So it's actually a lot like this.
It's a lot like this movie.
Maybe there'll be a movie about that one day.
Probably not. But
Almost definitely not. Anyway, the point is, Nick reminds me of Jake.
well, I mean, Nick
A
is really
lot.
all of us, like I said.
He is all of us. He is,
um,
but more you than most.
okay, sure.
I could also see you fighting an actor.
You'd see me fighting an actor?
I could see you like jumping. No, I just made that up. I
Yeah.
don't really think I could see you fighting an actor.
I don't know. If the actor came at me, I don't know.
Yeah, well, if an actor punched you, I could see you fighting an actor. Anyway, this is all we're spinning off the rails at record speed here. So, what were your initial thoughts, if you have any extra ones?
No, just that, like, it's great, and it's hilarious. Like, it cracked me up. Like everything in that movie just feels so much like it's based on something that
That's
happened.
the thing. Is it feels so real. It's like it's such a real movie.
Actually, on that subject, there's a, I don't know how closely you looked at the credits of this film.
Oh yeah.
Did you catch that in the credits? Because you know how normally at the end of the credits or whatever it says, like, what's that thing? Like, any resemblance or incidents portrayed or names are fictitious, and any similarity to any person is coincidental, right?
Right.
So in this, they changed that at the end, where they said, the names herein are, any incidents portrayed and the names herein are sort of fictitious, and any similarity to the name, character, or history of any person is sort of coincidental and unintentional.
That's unbelievable.
So they snuck that into the credits, which I thought was funny.
That is great.
Cracked me up all the way through. Like, you cannot look away. You cannot.
No,
you
totally.
can't, like.
It's.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I wasn't able. Like, I could not have been distracted from that movie. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. Yeah.
It held my
Exactly.
attention all the way through.
It's like watching a train wreck
Exactly.
in slow motion.
You
That's
cannot
what it
avert
is.
your eyes. You know? Like,
Yeah. So should we get into the production?
yeah, let's do that.
Start talking about actually how this was made and all that jazz.
Yeah, definitely. Do you like jazz?
Do you like jazz?
No, did you
What would
notice
it
that
be?
they said that in this movie a bunch of times?
A bunch of times. I heard it once.
No, there was like 3 or 4 times
Oh,
where,
yeah, right,
where they
right,
said,
right,
do you
'cause,
like
like-
jazz? Which I
Because we
couldn't
go to the
stop
jazz
thinking of,
club.
do you like jazz?
We'll do the B movie one day.
Oh god, one day, yeah. What do you have to tell us about
Well,
Mr.
okay,
Tom
so-
DeCillo?
Well, so Tom DeCillo?
I don't know.
DeCillo?
I'm not sure. I didn't check.
I think it's DeCillo.
I think it is too, but I could be wrong.
So,
Maybe it's Tom
Is-
DeCillo. Who
oh,
knows?
it could be actually.
I don't know. Tom. Anyway.
Yeah. So he directed his first film is actually pretty notable, not necessarily because of what it is, but because it's one of Brad Pitt's first roles. It's called Johnny Suede.
I've never actually seen it, but
Yeah, but it's also got Catherine Keener in it.
Yeah.
But we'll learn why. I think there's a. And we've talked about actually how Brad Pitt and Catherine Keener were friends before. I don't know if you remember that.
when were we talking about that? Was it on Moneyball?
Yeah.
Was Catherine
because
Keener involved in
she-
Moneyball?
She suggested something. I'm trying to. It's coming back to me. Hold on. She suggested something to Brad Pitt. I think it was the director.
Oh, yeah. What was the guy's
Right?
name?
Yeah, what was his name? Why am I blanking on the director's name?
I don't know why I'm directing. Bennett
He
Miller.
did
Bennett Miller.
the-
Yeah.
Bennett Miller. Yeah, I think she.
Because she was
directed-
in Capote, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Small world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost as if they make all these movies in the same city.
Well, they didn't make this movie in the same city, actually.
Oh no! Where was this shot?
Well, because this, I think this movie is like profoundly not Hollywood.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, all this, the point of what we're talking about here is that, the Johnny Suede was his first movie, starring Brad Pitt with the biggest pompadour you've ever seen in your
Yeah,
life.
I just looked it up. It's huge. I don't think I've ever seen
Yeah,
a bigger
it's-
pompadour.
It's cartoonishly large. And the vibe I get is that he hated every single moment of making that movie.
Yeah.
From the top to the bottom. Like, passionately hated it.
Yeah, Tom, like, the vibe I got from Tom DeCillo is that he absolutely hates making movies.
Yeah, that's the
Which
vibe
is-
I got as well.
Which is hilarious, because, I mean, he clearly must like doing it to a certain extent.
Well,
But-
yeah, he
but,
got
like,
into it and he made
might hate
more
the
than...
process, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he seemed to hate making movies, hated the industry, and he specifically seemed to hate when people talked to him
Yeah.
about movies and like wanting to make movies and stuff.
Well,
And
I
he
think
said
he
he, like,
hated
wanted
when people, you know, like,
Got lofty about
got
the
lofty
industry,
about the industry and stuff like that, and
got romantic.
got romantic about it when, you know, he's seen the Sausage Factory, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think he said something about wanting to scream in people's faces.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea for this movie, he said, basically came from him essentially doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, it makes sense, but yeah, it came from one day he ran into. He said what it was like.
He was at a friend's wedding. He said
that's right. Which will come up again later.
It will, yeah.
Two. He was at a friend's wedding when he ran into an old classmate of his from an acting class that he had done years in the past. And they were catching up, and his classmate was like, "Wow,
yeah." So he just heard
it's
about
so cool.
Johnny Suede or seen it, or and
Yeah,
he talked. He said, "Yeah, it's
yeah, it's so cool that you got to make a movie.
Yeah,
like you made it
with
Tom.
Brad Pitt. Too.
Like, yeah, you made. Well, I mean, I think.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think Brad Pitt was Brad Pitt still, but
no, not yet.
Yeah, like this is shortly after Johnny Suede. Did we say what year, just to cut in? Did we say what year the movie we're doing Living in Oblivion came out?
Living in Oblivion came out in 1995. Johnny Suede came out in 1991.
There you go. Okay, so big gap between 1 and 2 because I think he never wanted to do it again. But he runs into this class.
Well, also he was working as a DP as well.
Right. DeSilva basically said, he had a couple martinis or something because he was at the wedding, and he basically exploded at the guy, being like, "No, it was the worst thing ever. It was a nightmarish ordeal.
This is why you never want to make a movie." Like,
And he says he had like this aha moment. It was like, "Oh,
that would make a good movie,"
which is so fucking ironic.
Yeah. So the friend that was at the wedding actually. The groom, I think, and it was got cast as the clapper person.
Oh, it was the groom?
I think it was the groom. I don't know. You don't see their face, really, do you?
No, it's not. Actually, no, it's definitely not the groom. It was somebody else. Because again, the wedding.
Oh no, it was the friend from. It was the friend that he yelled at. Sorry.
Yeah, the friend.
Sorry,
that
it was the friend that he yelled at that got cast as the. But the people from the wedding did get cast in the movie. The bride and groom.
Yeah, we'll get to all that. That's all part 2.
Right. Yeah.
Because this movie's weird. I forgot to preface this, because this is going to be a weird. Normally we do, like, if you're familiar with the show, you know that we kind of lay it out. We do our pre-duction.
Yeah.
In part 1.
It's kind of hard to do that with this movie because it's like all messed up.
Exactly. Production part 1, production is part 2.
The vibe I got is like making this movie was not like a very organized affair, you know what I mean?
Well, this movie was essentially, so there were 2 pre-duction as we call it, and 2 production periods.
Exactly.
And we'll get into all that later, but I just thought that's kind of weird. So in part 1 we're going to cover the first production period, or first pre-production period, and first production period, and then in part 2 we're going to do the second one.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, this friend who gave him the idea for the film, like very tangentially gave him the idea, but nonetheless gave him the idea. He cast him in the role as the second AC.
Yeah. The second AC, by the way, is the clapper loader person.
Yes, we've discussed this before, I believe. I don't remember which episode, but
I don't know which one. So initially they were just trying to make like a short film. Like this was just like, I think, a fun idea that Tom had, that he was just
it was a romp.
I need to capture this on film somehow because
exactly.
he felt so strongly about it, right?
Yeah, he felt strongly about the idea, so he's going to make this short film.
Yeah, he brought a bunch of people on board who I think were kind of in his orbit.
Well, the way he tells it is, so he's trying to fund the movie.
Yeah.
So he goes to his wife, who he said raised $32,000 in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened, but
did rich friends?
I don't know. We find that happens a lot, I think, where people just randomly find a ton of money somehow.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and then they just asked around their friends to finance their first film.
What was it that happened on when they were making Goon? They just called up like somebody's uncle, and then like they're just like, okay, let's fund the movie.
The production company fully pulled out. So the producer, because
Yeah.
it was his first movie, called up his uncle and his father, and
Yeah.
they fronted all the money.
Yeah.
Or maybe not all of it, but
Yeah, but enough to finish the movie, right?
yeah.
But anyway.
It's happened more than once.
Yeah, no. Yeah, or what we never did figure out how Roland Emmerich was able to fund his first movie either.
Oh yeah, exactly. Which movie was that again?
That was the Noah's Ark project or something like that, where he did it in film school, right?
Oh right.
And he raised like 1.2 million Deutschmarks
Yeah,
or whatever.
right.
Nobody knows how.
They're like, what the fuck? And he was like, yeah, exactly. And like the standard for
Yeah, it was like 20,000 Deutschmarks or something like that.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, it's a common thing in film that they just pull a lot of money out of their ass. But I think the reason for that is that basically that's because the films where that happens are the films that get finished.
Good point.
So it's like,
Those are
you
the ones that
don't
we
hear
see.
about the ones that, where they didn't find
Aren't.
any money.
Right, yeah, it's true. They're not. Of course, we've never seen the films that didn't get made due to lack of funding.
Exactly. So that's why this seems to always happen. I think it's selection bias.
Yeah, assuredly, there's quite a few more of the other kind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Tom DeSillo was friends with Catherine Keener,
Yeah.
who at the time was newly married to Dermot Mulroney. So already we've got a pretty tight circle.
Oh, I didn't even realize that they were married.
Yeah, they were
I
married.
totally didn't. I totally missed that. But yeah,
That's the
that's
second
funny.
time
That's
that's
actually really
happened.
funny.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's how he got involved, right? Because DeSillo's friends with Keener. He
Right.
immediately brings her on.
Yeah.
She shows the script to Mulrooney, and he liked it. He really wanted it in, and obviously they still wanted money. So Dermot Mulrooney goes, "I'll give you $5,000 if I can play the director."
Yeah, and he was like, "No, fuck you, but I'll take your money."
And that's a quote.
Well, he didn't say
From-
fuck you, I don't think, but
No, it's true. The
Yeah.
fuck you, it wasn't in there. He said
Yeah.
no, but I will take your money.
yeah. And so then he ended up being Wolf.
Yeah, which is so much better. And it was actually Dermot Mulroney who suggested.
Steve Buscemi, right?
Yeah,
But he was I think already friends with them, right?
yeah, exactly. I think they all kind of knew each other.
Yeah.
Because Steve Buscemi said that Tom DeSillo was like one of his earliest supporters, and like
Yeah.
I don't know too much about Steve Buscemi, like where he came up, but I
Yeah.
guess he was doing stage work
Yeah.
earlier on.
At this point, he hadn't done, I think, most of his most, well-known roles.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, I mean, at this point, like, what had he been in? I guess he was in Reservoir Dogs, which, was critically acclaimed. But
Yeah, he was in Reservoir Dogs.
he hadn't done Fargo yet. He hadn't done...
Hadn't done Big Lebowski yet.
he
Hadn't
did...
done Monsters Incorporated yet.
No, he hadn't done that.
I think he was also trying to direct it this time.
Yeah, he was in Barton Fink. But yeah, no, so it's actually interesting that, like, kind of shortly after this movie, I think, is when Steve Buscemi kind of, like, took off.
And he was not really...
Yeah,
when he
because
took off, he
just the
wasn't
next
really
year he did Fargo.
Oh, yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah. And then Con Air, Big Lebowski,
Yeah.
1997. No, 1998.
Yeah, which is, I don't know. I like most of his movies, so it's
Yeah,
just
I
kinda
really
weird
like
that I'd
Steve
never
Buscemi.
heard of this movie.
Yeah. Especially because he's the star, which I guess
Exactly.
normally he isn't, right? Normally he's a supporting
Yeah,
character.
exactly. He's a great star.
Yeah.
Speaking of Buscemi, he took the role without reading the script, but
Yeah. I guess
I
he had a
think that
lot of
was-
faith in Tom.
he had faith in Tom, but also I think because it was a short film at this point, right? So
Right.
they,
It's because they said they did the whole thing in like 5 days or something like that.
Well, they said that they were planning on shooting in 6 days, and I have no reason to believe that it took much longer than that. I'm sure it took a little longer. But
So yeah, it seems like it was like pretty much a win-win. Although I don't think Steve Buscemi would have gotten paid much or anything.
no. Well, yeah. Exactly. Well, we'll get into that right now.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like it was sort of a pay-to-play situation. Well, not seemed like it.
Yeah.
It
Well, I think
absolutely
the
was.
people that were in the movie were pretty much the people that put up money for the movie, like Mulrooney and Keener, right?
Exactly.
Because, like, I think it's basically just, like, these are Tom DeSillo's friends, and they're helping him make this movie by giving him money and being in it.
Yeah, like the way he put it was that, people came to him wanting to be in the movie, and he was like, yeah, if you put up some money, you can
Yeah,
be
exactly.
in it. And I guess he got people who, like, wanted to act or believed in the project, and I don't know, it's kind of...
Yeah.
Because I didn't hear any other perspectives on that idea, about people putting up money to act, so I don't exactly know what the dynamic was, but
Right.
I think Steve Buscemi may have been paid,
Okay. Right.
but I'm not sure.
I don't think he got much.
If he did, he didn't get much.
Yeah. So that's kind of how everything got set up for sort of the first shooting.
The first production period.
Yeah, so they end up anyway. So they make a 30-minute movie basically. This is kind of what ends up being the first sequence, the first dream sequence.
And I wanted to talk about that a bit because I think that reads very clearly as that.
Well, I mean, you can totally tell just that the first segment was shot completely differently. Like, just, I mean, if you look at, like, for example, the way it's shot, notice that, like, everything in the first sequence is in black and white except for the actual shots that are supposedly in the movie that they're making.
Yeah.
Whereas in the other segments, they're all in color.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can tell that they added a lot to the narrative.
Yeah.
In that wasn't there in that first third.
Yeah, and also you can tell in the next couple bits, like, that they're filmed in the same location, but that the first one is a different location.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. So yeah, no, just now knowing that that's the way they did it, I think it's pretty clear. But yeah, anyway, yeah, so basically they wanted to like Tom DeSillo basically thought that well, it's a 30-minute movie. It's kind of an awkward length. It's too long to be a short film, right? But too short to be a feature, right? So there's nowhere to really play it. I can't show it at any festivals or anything. But since everybody doing the first part of it, had such a blast, like kind of filming it, everybody seemed to have a lot of fun. They just figured, let's just make more.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone who was involved, allegedly, according to Tom.
Well, I kind of get that, like, these are all people that are in the film industry. They're all people that are, at this point, working on independent films. Like, they're very much coming from the same perspective that he has. And I think that everybody got the joke,
Yeah, exactly.
And, I think people were enjoying that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think they were all in on it. I think it's just, like, a pretty relatively easy project.
Yeah, small exactly. Cast, I mean, compared to Johnny Swade.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
About Steve. We were talking a lot about Steve Buscemi, but obviously because he's the.
Yeah, well, he's the star.
Yeah, you mentioned the scene where he freaks out earlier.
Yeah, it's a good scene.
Yeah, well, apparently about that, Tom DeSillo was saying that, like, the reaction scene of the crew where they're, like, reacting to him freaking out. He's saying that reaction scenes are, like, the hardest scenes to shoot because actors often actually need something to react to, or
you're not going to get,
like, they're not going to be like unanimous in their reaction, and it's not going to be So he essentially, like, set Steve Buscemi free, and it was just like, do something crazy that's going to make them look like you're crazy.
Do you know he made up the insults on the spot?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That I'm getting that last bit was improvised. That his whole tirade where he's
I think that's hilarious because, like, he's just like popping them off one after another. They're just all so good. Like,
you pretentious beret wearing motherfucker.
Yeah, like, I saw your reel and it was shit. what do you do here? Like, what do you actually...
What's your name? What's your name even? What do you do here? Who are you?
Yeah. Like, just he's got one for everybody. Like, you can't find a fucking beep?
Point being.
So yeah, that wasn't in the script then.
That wasn't in the script.
So did the script just say something like, he freaks out? Yeah,
exactly. Pretty much word for word, I think. But, this is all... The point of all this is that, like, that bit is what Tom DeSillo called a quote-unquote true creative moment.
Yeah.
And he said, it's better than any drug I've ever taken.
So this is why he keeps making movies even though he hates it.
Exactly. Which is like... So he's clearly an addict because he hates making movies so much.
But yeah, I guess, at some points you get Steve Buscemi screaming at a film crew, and that's worth it.
Exactly. Every now and again, it just something comes together. Steve Buscemi screams the right insult.
Yeah.
And magic is made.
Yeah. So anyway, like I was saying, they kind of decided that there was no way at this point to show the film, but because it was too long to be a short film and too short to be a feature, but that nobody wanted to quit.
Yeah, nobody. So they were like, okay, well, if Tom DeSillo specifically was like, okay, if I'm gonna show this movie anywhere, I need to make it a feature.
Yeah, and there's actually a couple of examples also, I think, of this happening in other movies. That's
yeah.
Especially
I'm struggling.
Independent film. Well, I mean, the first one I can think of is Dark Star, the John Carpenter movie.
Right, yeah, it started.
But because they
kept adding to that.
They just added it because they wanted to make it a feature, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
How much
they
did
could
they add
show
to
it.
that?
Sorry?
How much did they add to that?
I think, I think it was only like an extra 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I think it was
That's almost worse though, because then it's like it's really superfluous material you're adding. Whereas with this, it's like you're adding 2/3 of a movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it depends. It's hard to say. It depends on what you have to begin with, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, I do think that you could just have the first segment stand on its own, but I think adding the 2 extra segments really complete this.
No, yeah, totally, of course. So yeah, that's the kind of the second the production period, but they take an 8-month break between shooting periods, which what happens in that 8-month break we'll talk about on the next episode. So because we're gonna if we keep going, we're gonna run pretty long. So instead of that, let's move on to our next segment.
Yeah? Would that be the segment? Welcome to 6 Degrees of Star Trek. This is the segment where we find connections between this film and Star Trek. So what do you think, Keaton? Do you think this was easy or hard?
My first thought was that it's going to be extremely hard, but I guess now that you've asked me that question, I'm having second thoughts, and my second thoughts are the conversation we've had about Star Trek series and episodes often containing the salt of the earth.
Right. Okay, so normally you'd be right, but this movie has a bit of a higher salt content than your average film. In the sense that if you look at a lot of the cast in this film, you will notice that their IMDb page basically just has this movie as one of the only things on it.
Indeed.
And that is because a lot of the people in this movie are not necessarily professional actors. They're people who paid to be in the movie.
Yeah, the thing we specifically forgot to mention is that the guy who played the boom operator was Tom DeSillo's wife's trainer.
Yeah.
Who put up $2,000 to be in the movie.
I mean, he was funny in this movie too.
Yeah. He was great. He was hilarious.
Yeah.
He should have been paid.
It's always the fucking boom operator. But yeah, what was I going to say? So yeah, so this movie was hard. I think, because there were no direct connections.
No, I don't think Dermot Mulroney's ever been in an episode of Star Trek.
No. Because I think a lot of the sort of secondary cast of this movie is just so unnotable because they've been in literally nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think some of the top end cast went on to do more interesting things, but are not the kind of people who would be in Star Trek.
Exactly. It's kind of very, it's either famous people or nobody in this movie.
Yeah.
And there's no in between. Well, future famous people.
Yeah, but there are a lot of two steps, but there's no direct connection.
That doesn't shock me one bit.
Yeah.
I'm even impressed that there are any two-step connections.
Oh, there's tons. I had to cut myself down because I was going beyond 3.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I could have just kept going.
Yeah, this segment could just never end.
If I wanted to follow all of the paths, don't make me do the math right now, but
theoretically almost infinite.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be a lot of fucking connections if I went beyond 3. I think so. I have to limit to the 3 closest that I can think of.
All right, and what are they?
So let's start with Steve Buscemi.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So he was not in Star Trek.
No.
But he was in Spy Kids 2.
Was he?
Yes. I cannot remember what happens in Spy Kids 2. It's been a long time.
No, Spy Kids 2 is the island of...
yeah.
is the one where they go to Island of Mystery.
Right.
Spy Kids 2 is the lesser of the trilogy. Because 3D obviously had the 3D thing going.
Yeah.
I think Spy Kids 2 was probably better than Spy Kids 3, but
Spy Kids 3 is terrible.
Yeah, but it was gimmicky as hell. It had the awesome 3D glasses.
Fucking Sylvester Stallone was in that movie, wasn't he?
In Spy Kids 3, was he?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't even know if I would have registered him.
Anyway, Spy Kids. Why do we care about Spy Kids? Because Ricardo Montalban is in Spy Kids 2.
Oh, yeah?
Do you know Ricardo Montalban?
That name is very familiar.
He is Khan.
Okay, yeah, okay.
He was in the 1967 episode of Star Trek TOS, Space Seed.
Space Seed.
Which is the episode where they meet Khan, Noonien Soong, where Khan is sort of this genetically modified human, genetic super soldier kind of guy who was frozen or in stasis since the 20th century, since 1996. I think it was 96. But anyway, so he they find him, and then obviously he's Khan. He tries to take over the Enterprise, and then Kirk defeats him, and then sends him to SETI Alpha 6, I think, or SETI Alpha 5. I can't remember. I think it's SETI Alpha 6. Anyway, so that's the end of the episode, but that's not the end of Khan, because obviously he comes back in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Of course, yeah.
Where they go back to the planet, and Khan is very pissed because some ecological disaster has ruined his little operation there. And then
you get some extremely convincing graphics.
Yeah, some extremely convincing Pixar graphics. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And then Khan decides to get revenge on Kirk for leaving him there. It's fucking Khan. What more can I say, man?
Yeah, well, literally, what more could you say? So, sorry, what movie was Spy Kids?
Spy Kids 2.
So wait, who's Ricardo Montalban playing?
I don't remember what happens in Spy Kids 2. You're
Spy Kids. No, they go to the island.
Yeah.
And there's a dinosaur there?
Something.
And there's a scientist there. Is he the scientist that's on the island? Island of Lost Dreams is what it's called.
Oh, he's their grandfather.
Oh, and their grandfather's the scientist who's on the...
Right, he's also in Spy Kids 3D.
Oh, sick.
Right.
Is he in the first one?
No.
Okay.
They don't meet him.
Right.
But yeah, he's also Khan.
Fuck yeah.
Right, okay. So, let's move on.
Okay.
Let's go to Catherine Keener.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna go through the 3 actors in this film.
There might be a slight one that you might not expect.
Okay, cool.
Well,
cool.
maybe not.
We'll see.
So Catherine Keener, was in a film called Being John Malkovich.
Indeed.
Which is probably what I know her best from.
I'm trying to think what I know her best from. I don't think it's that, but
Right.
let me just look at her filmography. Oh yeah, adaptation with Nick Cage.
Oh yeah. Same director as Being John Malkovich, isn't it? And writer.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Spike Jonze, right?
I think it is, yeah. Capote, right? The 40-year-old virgin. That's right.
Yeah. But anyway, Being John Malkovich, you know, I scrolled through that looking for, salt of the earth type people who would have been on Star Trek.
Exactly, yeah.
And we find one Willie Garson.
Willie Garson. We've talked about him before.
This is the third time I'm mentioning Willie Garson. Because he is everywhere. He's in fucking everything, okay?
Salt of the goddamn earth, Willie Garson.
Yeah, I first saw him in Stargate SG-1, which he plays a very memorable role. But
really?
He's in many things, lots of sci-fi, including Star Trek.
God, that's awesome.
But yeah, he was in Star Trek Voyager in one episode. See, this is the great thing about actors like this. They can be in one episode of Star Trek, and I can use them all the time because they're everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this guy. Yeah.
And he was dressed like a fish person in Star Trek.
Was he?
Yeah, he was. He was wearing like some latex thing on his face.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who's been in one episode of almost every TV show. Yeah,
he's in 2 episodes of Stargate, actually. At least. But, like, I think if you go to Willie Garson's IMDb page, there's this... If you read his, like, bio, I think it's hilarious, just because it starts with, rarely at a loss for work, Garson has appeared in more than 300 episodes of television and more than 70 films.
Wow.
And like, the bit that he plays in Being John Malkovich is, like, it's so weird.
I don't remember the bit he plays in Being John Malkovich.
He's in this one scene where he's in a restaurant and John Malkovich is there. And he's like, "Excuse me, are you John Malkovich?" And then he's like, "Well, yes, I am." And then he was like, "You're really great in that movie. Were you?"
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. That's a good movie.
But yeah, he's in just this one scene. It's hilarious. Gotta hand it to Willie Garson for making my job easier.
Seriously, he's done a lot of good work.
Yeah, exactly.
He's in Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a security guard. God damn.
If ever you just want a random guy to be in your mostly TV, I would say. If you want
mostly
some
TV
random,
scenes, but over 70 films.
Over 70 films, yeah. Want some random guy, call Willie Garson.
Yeah.
Maybe he just never says no to anything. You know what I mean?
Maybe we should try and get him on the show.
We should. Let's give Willie Garson a call, maybe.
Although we can't pay him because.
Well, no.
We don't have a budget for that.
But we'll ask if he wants to come on. Let's ask Willie Garson. Anyway, so let's move on. So, we got Peter Dinklage.
Okay.
Peter Dinklage was in X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Which happens to have Patrick Stewart in it.
Oh, of course, yeah. Like, what the fuck? Well, I was thinking further.
You're trying to think, where would I go from there? It's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
It's pretty fucking obvious, isn't
it? Yeah. Patrick Stewart, Captain Picard, obvious.
I've been coming around to Captain Picard ever since I've been watching. I think he's definitely still below Janeway, but...
Well, everybody's below Janeway to you.
Well, exactly. But, my list might be reshuffling, but I'm not ready to disclose any reordering yet.
Oh, you're not gonna say whether or not you put Picard where you put Picard relative to Kirk?
No, yeah, it's still an internal... everyone knows prior to this, Picard was near the bottom, if not at the bottom.
Right. Well, I know you somewhat controversially put Janeway at the top.
I don't believe that's controversial at all. I believe that to be one of the least controversial things I've ever done, in fact.
Okay. But yeah, I think there were a couple of just random ones that I came upon, I think. I bet you I could find one because we said Kevin Corrigan, who plays the first assistant camera.
Right, the guy
who's focus puller.
The goon for Pineapple
He's in
Express.
Pineapple Express, and we did 6 Degrees of Star Trek for Pineapple Express, so we could connect it that way, right?
So yeah, exactly. Logically, there you go.
Let's do one right now. Let's go through Pineapple. Let's find because he was in Pineapple Express. Who do we have in Pineapple Express? Do we have any direct connections? Oh yeah, we had Gary Cole.
Gary Cole, of course.
Yeah, who was in was in a episode of Lower Decks, or voiced a person.
Right. Yeah. And
But yeah.
among many other things.
So yeah, there we go. Another 2-step right there.
But yeah, so there you go.
There you go. That's what we have for you today. I try not to say that's all I have to say about that.
I know, right? It's really hard not to when you once the seed's been planted.
Yeah.
Once the gump seed has been planted.
Gump seed has been planted.
God.
Yeah.
Just like you planted it in Jenny.
Oh God.
Gump seed.
Yeah, gump seed. You plant that, and it only grows in Greenbow, Alabama.
What we're trying to do is end the episode, I think.
Yeah, I don't really know how to do that, so we could just end it.
Yeah. We could play us out, and then there's shout-outs, and that's what we normally do.
Fine shout-out for today that we haven't mentioned before. We have Florida.
Florida? That's specific.
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, the stats can break down what country you're in, unless you live in the U.S., Canada, or Australia. Then it can break down exactly what state, province.
Even more specific, right?
But yeah, so there we go. Yeah, thank you, Florida man, for listening to our podcast.
Yeah.